Hey everybody, this is Adam Gussow, just back from a tour up from Atlanta to the New York area and back with my new blues trio, Sir Rod and the Blues Doctors. I've got a lesson on something that came up in the course of the tour in a good way. It's just something that occurred to me suddenly that I really haven't taught much at all in the more than a decade that I've been here at YouTube. The 14 years that I've been here at YouTube, and that is comping. Many years ago I had a series on my other channel, the Modern Blues Harmonica channel, called Copy and Comp. But just the idea of comping, when I say comping, what do I mean? Well, let's imagine that there's three basic ways that one might play blues harmonica. One would be solo, without any other musicians at all. Right? And so it's important as a harmonica player, as a blues harmonica player, to be able to play solo, to have a solo performance piece, to be able to entertain an audience with just a harmonica, maybe your voice for some lyrics. That's number one. Number two, the one that I think many people think of, obviously, is kind of like soloing, right? And you have to be able to do what we call throw down. On the streets in Harlem, people used to always say, throw down, meaning like throw down your cards. Show me what you got. I'm calling your hand. Can you play? And so I think a lot of harmonica players, blues harmonica players, they want to get the mic and the amp, and then the idea somehow is that they're going to have the ultimate solo that's just going to make everybody rise to their feet. Or the ultimate kind of harmonica instrumental. I think about, what's his name, Taro Senga and his group Monster. You know, has some incredible, James Cotton. Every harp player has these sort of solo with a band kind of things. Or just the solo for a couple of choruses after the singer. Those are two really important ways of playing blues harmonica. But there's a third way, and it tends to fall by the wayside. When people think about teaching the harmonica, when they think about kind of what they ought to be learning. And in fact, depending on the kind of context you're in, it's more than half the game. In the context I'm in right now, comping, which is to say playing along behind a singer, sort of comping and then filling. By the way, filling would be filling the spaces between the singer's phrases. Comping is sort of, can encompass filling a little bit, but basically like, what do you do when you're not soloing? You're a harmonica player, you're on stage, something else is going on. Somebody is singing a song and expressing himself or herself. What do you do as a harp player? And so there's a couple of principles, and I don't have notes, but there's a couple of basic principles. And they're in no particular order, and I'm actually thinking about them. I'll think them up as I go. The first one, it's interesting. First, do no harm. So the worst thing you can do as somebody who's comping is draw too much attention to yourself. The best comping serves the song, serves the singer. Now, of course, let's keep in mind, if you're a harmonica player who's leading a band, you'll be comping only if you choose to behind other players who are soloing. You may choose to sit out because you'll be either singing or playing harp or not playing, but you won't be comping behind this singer. In the group that I'm in now, Sir Rod and the Blues Doctors, I have much more of a situation like I had for 30 years in the duo Satan and Adam, where I was playing a lot of harp, but most of it was behind the singer. And then when he told me to take a solo, I had to be prepared to throw down. So comping, first do no harm, which is this Hippocratic oath. Doctors are told, first do no harm. Don't make the patient sicker. One way of thinking about this would be, don't draw undue attention to yourself. The moment you draw, imagine, let me back up. Imagine you're in the audience and you're watching an act. In our case, imagine you're watching, they've got a guitar player here, electric guitar player, they've got a guy playing harp and drums over here, and you've got a lead singer right in the middle. He's the front man. The listener wants to focus on what that singer's doing, whether they're singing, whether they're pausing between their phrases, but most of all, it's the song that the person's trying to put across, and maybe there's a little bit of a dance somewhere. Rod has that. So as the harp player, if you draw undue attention to yourself, except when you're soloing, then you're doing it wrong. That's number one. So number two, okay, I'm giving you, a second one comes to mind immediately. Groove is everything. When you're comping, if you do stuff that conflicts with the groove or destroys or undercuts the groove, you're doing it wrong. So be thinking about groove. The notes you play should actually be dictated in part by the groove. That's number 2, right? Number 3, and this is actually a really interesting one. You can play really loud on harp when you're comping. You can, but your ability to play loud is dependent on 2 things. Number 1, that what you do is groovy, that it's really contributing to the groove. It's punching in just the right place. All right, that's number 1. And number 2, that there's an element of repetitiveness to it, so that it doesn't call undue attention to itself. You're not constantly doing something new. Now, I violate that rule to some extent, but within limits, and I'm very aware that repetition counts for a lot when you're comping. So finding the right kind of line, finding the places. Now, here's the tricky part. I'm going to show you a song called Mustang Sally that we do, and I'm going to actually focus on a recording that was made a couple of weeks ago when we played live, because I'm happy with the part that I've evolved. I didn't start with it where it is now, but it's sort of fallen into place. It really grooves. It has some variation, so I'm not just repeating rote, but I'm working with some basic ideas, and I'm punching, in some cases, on specific beats. Now, of course, as a drummer, that enables me to really think rhythmically. Okay, so we've got those 3 principles. I can't even remember what they are. Number 1, first, do no harm. Number 2, it's all about the groove. And number 3, you can play loud, but you have to play loud in the right places, the right way, or else you're calling attention. And here's a way to think about that 3rd principle, which is, I need to open this. It's getting a little hot. Think about that 3rd principle, a horn line. You know, a big band like a Bobby Blue Bland or a B.B. King, those guys had the horns. Right? You have let the good times roll. In some cases, those horns are going to punch even while the person's singing. But and so they're really loud. They've got their own rhythmic thing, but they're driving the groove, and they're predictable. If you're really loud and you do unpredictable stuff, you're going to distract. You're not going to serve the song and the singer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the track. I can close this up. It's a little steamy in the car. It's a Mississippi July. I'm going to put on the track and let it play for a little bit. And then I'm going to show you what I did and show you my thinking. Here's maybe a 4th principle, which is, this is Mustang Sally, but it's not like I'm going to show you the comp part, because the specifics of the way you comp are going to depend on the rhythm section, on what the drummer, the guitarist, the bass player are doing. And in every case, you need to find something that interacts constructively with those elements of the rhythmic thing, the rhythmic background, because comping is really finding a way to let the harp be part of the rhythm section, in a sense. That's the best way of thinking about it. Okay, pause for the cause. For the record, I'm going to play an F harp. I don't play F harps very much here. It's for the key of C. So I want to start with that little thing. That's not comping exactly, but that's me laying it down, and it's actually a good thing to learn. Kind of a little different, right? And I learned this from Billy Branch and Sons of Blues, their version. So I'm starting on the 1/4 draw. This is, by the way, not for beginners. This is for more solid intermediate players and above. I'm starting on 1/4 draw to 2/5 draw to 3/6 blow, and I'm really getting all of them full. Can you hear what I'm doing there? The first 3 I told you, but then I'm going 2/5 draw, 1/4 draw, 2/5 draw, and then 1/4 draw, 1/4 blow, 1/4 draw. It's getting warm again. Okay, so that's first part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Repeat. Mustang Sally. So that's where the vocals are going to come in. So we'll back it up a little bit. What I want you to do is listen to what the harp does once Rod starts singing. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the places. I'm not even really thinking first about the notes that I'm hitting. I'm trying to find the places where the empty space demands that I punch something in. Hope that makes sense. So let's back that up slightly.
Mustang Sally, don't you hear me when I call? Mustang Sally now, baby, don't you hear me when I call? You've been running all over town. I think it's time to put those flat feet on the ground. Audience participation, here we go.
All right, listen to this.
All you wanna do is ride around Sally.
Wow, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. Mustang Sally. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you a couple of things that I'm thinking about, that I'm working in. I'm working in a little bit of a melodic motif. One thing, actually, importantly, if we could go back and listen to what the guitar's doing. Because one option you always have is simply to double the guitar. And when things really groove, when they really work, sometimes it's because you're rhythmically doing that. And I learned a lot of that playing with Sterling McGee on the streets. So, did you hear what the guitar is doing? It's fascinating because I haven't actually listened to it that closely until just now. I basically knew, well, he's doing basically what I'm doing on the higher octave. He's going... Sometimes I will glissando. So actually, as a sort of basic comping move, that would really work well on the one chord. Please notice, by the way, that Mustang Sally is sort of twice as long. It takes twice as long to get through the changes. Everything's at twice as long. So think about that twice as longness as you're thinking about all this. So when I did that, I'm actually doubling. What am I doing? One draw, two draw, whole step bend, two draw. So if this is your beat, okay, so that's one possible thing you could do. What I'm listening for is I'm listening for that moment. I'm hitting on two, and I actually cough. Mustang Sally. There's a lot of things that I can do, but I want to go back to one other melodic motif. So that's one. The other one is something that's sort of in effect that I can use at several different places in the progression, and it can be part of my comping. If we go back and we listen.
Mustang Sally, don't you hear me when I call?
Let's just work with that. One. 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 So that's a little different than what I did the first time. The point is, it doesn't really matter what you do, and I hope you can hear what I'm doing. I'm just working with variations of 6-3 blow, 2-5 draw, and 1-4 draw. What am I doing there? 1. So I'm taking advantage of the repetition with variations. So in the second case, hitting that 6-3 blow again on the second beat. 1. Let me show you that riff. So what is that? 6-3 blow. Can you hear what I'm doing? They're all elements of the blues scale. Let me open this again. It's getting a little sweaty in here. Getting a little sweaty. Let me play it with single notes and let's see if that helps you. So I'm using notes from the blues scale. 5 draw, 4 draw, 5 draw. In the timing that I'm using, four draw bend, 4 blow, blue third, four blow, 4 blow, blue third, 2 draw bend. That's a great riff for this kind of thing. I would say start with that. If you want to know how to comp on something like this, a kind of disco 4 on the floor, but kind of very funky beat. Do da 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 do. Now that's what I want to show you, of course, which is the ride, Sally, ride, ride, get along, Sally, ride. So I want us to take a listen. Let's move ahead in this particular recording.
Mustang Sally now, baby. Don't you hear me when I call?
Don't forget the 4/5 warble.
You've been running all over town. I
Leave
think
space.
it's time to put those anticipation. Here we go.
Now watch, I'm going to stay out of the way.
All you wanna do is ride round Sally.
Oh, I'm playing the Ride Sally
All
ride
you wanna
thing.
do is
Quietly.
ride round Miss Sally.
Sort of along with the singers.
All you wanna do is ride round Sally.
So what am I doing when it changes from the 1 chord to the 4 chord? Well, there, instead of 3/6 blow, which is the root note of the 1 chord, I'm going to 1/4 blow, and I'm kind of working, so I'm changing what I'm doing a little bit, and I'm working it so it goes to 4. So I go boom. That's the downbeat of bar 5, or let's assume that everything is twice as long, but you know what I mean. It's the 4 chord coming in. Boom. So that was my way of doing the 4 chord. So I'm doing 1/4 blow. Now, can you tell where the downbeat, sort of the first beat of the bar is? In other words, I'm leaving it out. That's the interesting thing, right? I'm going 1, 2, and I'm hitting 2 real hard, because in this funky beat, when you hit 2 really hard, it just adds hugely to the rhythm. Let's let a little bit more of it play, and I think you'll see that.
All you wanna do, ride round Sally. You've been running all over town.
Warble.
I think it's time to put those big feet on the ground.
Did you hear? I want you to. We're gonna have a little fun. Did you hear how long I left? I did no harp, just a big empty space. There's a huge lesson in that. Nothing was needed, because the rhythm was churning along, the singer was doing his thing. No harp was needed. Harp would have been a distraction. That's fascinating. I'm gonna go back.
Ride round Sally.
All right, let's see this again.
You've been running all over town.
That's last harp.
It's time to put those big feet on the ground. Can I tell you what I did?
That's playing around too much. Now on the 5 chord, you can hear what I'm doing. It's pretty straightforward. I'm just kind of walking up a little bit. What's that? Can you hear that? 2 draw, 3 draw, 4 blow, 3 draw, and then I'm just scooping repeatedly on that 4 draw. I'm going to do the 1/4 blow percussive, and that's where I'm hitting that, and then there's this huge space. Now that's comping, when you have enough presence of mind to leave a big space like that, and to recognize that all that needs to be going on is going on, and it doesn't require harp. So that's the way to think about this. All right, we're gonna go. I'm gonna just play a little bit more, a couple more
I
comments.
bought you a brand new Mustang, 1965. Now she acting all bougie. The girl won't let me ride. Well, Mustang Sally, no.
So what I did there in that section, if you go back and listen, what I did there is I modulated my comping in the direction of filling. Does that make sense? In other words, instead of holding down the groove with a sort of continuous bit of punch here, punch there, I paused. He sang, and then I responded to what he's saying. If you go back and listen, you'll hear that quite clearly. And then towards the end of that 4-bar thing, I began to sort of add back in the comping that I'd been doing. So it's important sometimes when you're comping to avoid sort of, avoid boredom. Sometimes it's important to modulate a little bit in one direction or another. My point is, comping as a topic of blues harmonica growth, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that you can learn here, but it requires, first of all, that you sublimate your ego. The whole point of this is that if you do it well, nobody's going to notice. They're not going to notice the harp. They're just going to notice that the act sounds really good. Harp players may notice a little bit, but I went for years loving what the Jay Giles band did. It never once occurred to me that Magic Dick was one of the great rock comping rock harp players, and a lot of his stuff comes from what horn lines might be. It's in some cases it's simple, but it's like simple and elegant. It's like the thing designed to give you the maximal bang for the buck, and that's good harp comping. So part of it is to learn how to edit and leave a little out. Let's hear what goes on here.
Think you better slow that Mustang down. You've been running all over.
There I just held the 4.
Oh, one of these early mornings you're gonna be wiping those weeping eyes. Blues doctors, give us some medicine. Oh!
Now here's the solo. Throwing everything in. So one of the things again that I'm doing is I'm constantly adding in that ride, Sally, ride around Sally, ride, Sally, ride. Can you hear what I'm doing? Just 6-3 blow and 2-5 drop. Now I don't want to overuse it, but it's part of the palette of melodic motifs that I'm going to kind of combine and recombine in order to make the comping part. So that's one way to do it. Anyway, this video has gone on way longer than I thought it would go. Let's play one more little bit. Let's hear what this guy's doing.
One more time now. I need everybody.
So
even in the corner.
Here I'm backing away.
All you want to do is ride around Sally.
So I'm just...
All you want to do is ride around Miss Sally. All you want to do is ride around Sally. All you want to do, ride around Sally. You've been running all over town. One of these days you're going to be wiping those weeping eyes. One more time. All you want to do is ride.
Yeah, and so that's an important thing also there. So comping there is I'm going to do the 4-5 warble, which is, by the way, when you're holding down all the drums as I do that, it's a little tricky. But it happens to be really effective in this particular kind of groove. It's a little bit like the electric organ. So what I'm doing there is modulating my comping so that I'm basically doing what an electric organ might do, which is the 3/5 draw. Interestingly enough, sorry, the 4/5 draw. Interestingly enough, and I've talked about this in other videos, but years ago I did this, which is when you move to the 4 chord, I'm going to use the 5 blow and the 6 blow. It's a good way of, as you'll see, if you're playing over the 4 chord, that works beautifully. It's the major third and the 5th. It really wonderfully kind of evokes the chord. I don't know about this lesson, but I was trying to just share something. Hopefully some of it gets through. I don't think it's the most orderly lesson I've ever uploaded to YouTube, but I do think that there's a whole area here that we can explore. I'm going to try to do more of this. The comping thing. Yeah, the comping thing. So this is just a good example of that. Mustang Sally, good harp song. Yes, it's on the set list from hell, as David Grazian said in his book Blues Chicago. It's one of those 25 songs that every Chicago blues band has to play. Happens that it works really well for us, and it does get people singing. So think about it. Anyway, good funky stuff. I'll see you down the road. Bye-bye.